I want to know what the hell is going on.
3, 2, 1.
Perfect.
Wonderful.
Oh, Merry Christmas, everyone.
Past that, dude.
Yeah, we're in the future now. Happy New Year.
Oh, yeah, right. We already did the Merry Christmas. Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
New Year.
Oh, this is what we get for recording at night. We're, behind the pod, we're recording at night, and it's always a little bit weird when we record at night.
Nah,
We
it's
might be a little more blue.
It's because time has passed and we're in a new year.
New year, new us.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
The year of the series, or the yeary of the series.
Yearies of the series.
The yearies of the series.
Uh-huh.
It's like Mises or cheeses for my Mises. Is
Yeah.
what it feels like. It's not right. No, that's yearies for my series is not a real English language word or sentence. I don't care. It's cute.
Yeah, it works.
So yeah, we're going to start everything off with Alien. Because when we first started movie night many, many moons ago during the early days of the pandemic, we started because Keith had mentioned something about the movie Alien, and I had never seen Alien. As somebody that grew up in the 80s, he thought that was very strange.
Also, being a sci-fi fan,
Yeah. Well, I mean, now that I've seen it, I can see why. It's less sci-fi and more horror. Like, it's a horror movie with a sci-fi trapping, and I do enjoy the sci-fi setting, and the sci-fi setting has now grown into something that resembles, like, proper sci-fi. But this early stage, this is no different than, like, Event Horizon. I mean, Event Horizon is sci-fi as well, but, like, we only get to know very, very little about the world. We're only looking at the entire universe through this one ship. So
I mean, it's been...
How much can you...
This first one, it's been described as Jaws on a spaceship. That's essentially what you get. That's the meat and potatoes.
So, I mean, I can understand why it didn't really hit my radar, but it was something that I definitely missed. And Ed, when we watched it years later or years ago from now, I was very happy to have seen it.
I feel like it's a very Kelly movie. It's got lots of liminal spaces and time.
Yeah, a lot of the scenery is very comfortable and off-putting for me in the way that a good liminal space does. Yeah, I can see it. Definitely. It's the kind of movie where I would put this on in the background because I enjoy the vibe of it. And that's usually liminal spaces and me saying I'd put it on in the background because of the vibe. They kind of go hand in hand, I think.
And music is pretty cool too. Like, I know it does, there's a lot of intense music in some of the, like, chase parts and whatnot, but all the, like, strings and woodwinds going on and, like, mystical sounding exploration music, that shit's all
we
awesome.
will definitely talk about the music, but let's explain to our listeners what the new procedure is going to be.
Sure.
So we're going to do Alien, and once we're going to do other series throughout the year. And now that we're done with Alien, after we get done with this episode, we're going to go into our first series other than Alien, which might be a little confusing, but then we're going to do Jamie's pick, and she's going to pick a series of movies, whether it's 2 movies, 3 movies, 4 movies, whatever it is. And we're going to watch all those movies in a row.
27 movies.
I think we have an internal rule of anything 5 or lower is where we're drawing the limit, and that's specifically so that I don't throw Star Trek into it. Not yet. Yeah, so we'll do Jamie's series, and after Jamie's series is done, then we'll come back and do Aliens. We'll do the next movie in the Alien series. Alien is going to be like the spine that holds the year of our series, our years of series together.
Yes.
Because that will be the consistent. Every time we're done with a series, we'll come back and do another entry in the Alien franchise.
And that's kind of my sort of baby and steering, just because I think I've discovered in the past 5 years or so that my 2 favorite franchises, series, IPs, whatever you want to call them, are probably Star Wars and Aliens. And also just the callback to how we started, and I forced Kelly to watch Alien and Halloween as the first 2 movies. I was like, like the things that I like, Kelly. That's kind of the browbeating that I gave him.
I appreciate how much you love Alien. I appreciate how much you love Star Wars. And I think a lot of that is nostalgia. I've long held that part of the reason why everybody loves Star Wars is because we didn't have anything better. Star Wars was good. It was good science fiction, romp, fantasy type thing. There's nothing... Like, it's not bad, at least the original trilogy, what I'm thinking of, like what a lot of us grew up with. But as far as, like, once you get into, like, real heady and real heavy sci-fi, you realize that George Lucas was right, that it was made for kids. You know, like there's a certain innocence.
You're flirting dangerously close to slander here, so I'm just gonna let you know.
No, what I hear is that without the nostalgia element, I think you would totally dig deep into some Star Trek or some sci-fi franchises that have a little bit more meat intellectually to them. I'm thinking like obviously the Star Treks, but even like into like Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Battlestar Galactica, fucking Expanse, but we've kind of talked about that behind the scenes too. But these sci-fi franchises that are a little bit more fleshed out, whether it's ideologically or they get into some really awesome, you know, value-driven conundrums, that kind of stuff. But,
sure.
Because Aliens, as much as it is interesting, it's grimdark, it's Blade Runner. Like, if we found out that Blade Runner and the Wutani Corporation or whatever were going on at the same time, that would not be that far-fetched.
Completely tracks,
this universe of Alien doesn't feel that alien to sci-fi in general. It's very, but not to say that it's not making good commentary, which we'll get to, but like,
why do you do this?
So yeah, it's good, but it makes me think that if you had grown up with different sci-fi influences, then you probably would be just as nostalgic for them. And I'll never be able to counteract that nostalgia for you. I'll never be able to show you a sci-fi franchise. Like even if Battlestar Galactica, which is by far one of the best sci-fi franchises ever fucking made, I don't know if it'll ever supply.
I mean, I
that.
love The Expanse on its own merits and just watching it on my own. So, you know, I'm into all that
Battlestar
stuff.
Galactica and The Expanse are right up there next to each other. They deal with very different topics, but that quality of storytelling is what you can expect from Battlestar Galactica. And that dense of storytelling, and not a lot of filler, not a lot of bullshit, but a little bit in the fourth season. But that's another subject.
There's lots of filler here.
Yeah, there is, and that's what I'm saying. Like, this is a cool movie to have on in the background, but there's not a whole lot of discussion during the movie. Like there's never a point where you're going, oh, should they, shouldn't they? There are clearly defined good people and bad people.
Oh, very true. There's not like a philosophical debate to be had here, but what it does, it's essentially a slasher movie in a spaceship, right? Which is starting at a sort of, say a lower tier. But what it does extremely well. Like the production design, the design of the creature, the alien is such a fucking unique thing that, I'll later on I'll show, you guys the original concept arts for what the creature should, and it doesn't work. The H.R. Giger-ness of this is like kind of what makes it, you know?
Is it Giger or is it Geiger?
I believe it is Giger.
Your name is?
My name is Giger, H.R. Giger.
It's Giger.
Oh, that looks like Geiger then. But either way, we all know who you're talking about. But just in case somebody's going to write us an angry email, which, go ahead, have fun.
He's just such
you can correct us, just show us the proof.
But he's like an incredibly unique artist, and like the alien and the face hugger and even the spaceship that they explore, it's all like his DNA 100% through and through with that, and it just really kind of sells it for me. But I'm a huge dork over this franchise and this film. It's not my favorite in the franchise, but it's up there. But I want to hear...
Which one's your favorite for the
record?
The
next one, Aliens, is just like, it might be my favorite quote-unquote movie, not my favorite film, but like what you go to a movie theater and eat popcorn to see, like bombastic action and
better than Terminator 2?
Well, that's funny about that because James Cameron, he made Aliens, which was like the greatest action movie of all time in my opinion, until he topped it with Terminator 2. You know, like
yeah, because I'm thinking like Terminator 2 is the perfect example of a good movie that's also just a really good fucking blockbuster like action flick. Mm-hmm. I don't care about action films most of the time. Terminator, I fucking watched every bit of that shit. So
Terminator 2 especially. I love that movie.
Oh, the Terminator franchise. I wonder if that's going to be picked in this series of series.
You never know. I will say that I cried at the end of Terminator 2 because the robot was supposed to be his dad.
Yep, me too.
Yeah, and the music was fucking wonderful in that too.
Yeah,
like that. The way they added the strings underneath the classic like anvil drum beat, like, oh, so good, so good. So, anyways, on to the fact of Alien.
Oh, is that what we're discussing tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're supposed to be.
Different notes out.
This is ostensibly about Alien. You brought up the music as part of the vibe. Of course, we're just going to get the Star Trek connection right out of the way. Music done by Jerry Goldsmith himself, Mr. Star Trek. And I love it. I think he did a really good job. I noticed a trend early on, and I would love to go back and see how often this is happening, but there was a moment where we had a character looking through things or, going through some dark alleys or dark corridors in the ship, and you heard one instrument playing. And then there were another moment where there were two characters wandering, and I heard two different instruments playing together, like a subtle duet, not even like necessarily like harmonies or anything like that, just two instruments concurrently playing. And I thought that would be, I don't know if I would have to like go back and really pay attention, which this time I was paying attention to many other things that I lost track of it, but what a cool concept if that's the case. But yeah. The ambiance is off the charts. I love the way everything looks, the way everything has a feel. I know what that ship feels like. I've never been on it, but I know exactly what it feels like.
Yeah, it's that, what did we say? NASA punk?
NASA punk, yeah.
Where it's like, mechanical keyboards and monochrome screens. It's the distant future, but you still have just the green monochrome screen that makes the, Matrix printer noise as it types out text across it.
Yeah, but the Matrix is just literally zeros and ones, way too big on a CRT monitor, like 4 rows, 4 columns of
I'm 100% into it. I love it. Yeah, I'm all about the vibe.
But like I was telling you even afterwards that when they showed that scene with the zeros and ones with Ripley looking at it, it was like, okay, coming from somebody that writes a little bit of code, that was really fucking cheesy. Like, it would take you forever to read code like that, and that it would break your brain. You'd need, like, pen and paper or something, unless you're, like, a super genius. But even then, like, it conveyed the right feel. I knew exactly what it meant. She's pouring through the code right now. That's what the movie's trying to tell me. It's like Batman with his 4-foot-tall words in the Batcave. I get what you're saying. He's doing research.
I will say that I thought that we were beginning at the end, like it was because you're just this empty ship and silence, and it just keeps going from room, quote unquote, to room, and nobody's there. And I was convinced that we were beginning at the end of the movie, but no, that's not what we were doing.
Yeah, they were just 2001: A Space Odyssey-ing you a little bit.
Yeah,
because that was kind of the language of the time, of what space movies look like.
And also, it should be known that, Jamie, you had not seen this before this, like, actually sat down and watched it, right?
Nope, and I was about 99% sure I hadn't prior to watching it. After watching, like, the first 20 minutes, I knew I'd never seen it, so.
So did we'll get into, like, did you like it and stuff like that later, but did the final twist, did you see it coming? Were the aliens on the shuttle with her?
Yeah, because, it follows horror movie tropes, so obviously it's not, quote-unquote, dead.
Yeah. It's not safe. You didn't see the body kind of thing?
You gotta have Michael sit up 50 times.
About that scene, I love, though, how because the alien is, like, biomechanical, right? And so it's just, like, blended in with the tubes and pipes there. And you can't see it until it moves. It's so good. I
will say, like, I knew that it was there because horror movie rules, but I was looking for it and I was not able to see it. I was like, okay, because you got to be able to see it, right? And you could not see it until you saw it.
Looked like a rubber hose until it moved, and you saw the face in the bottom corner, and you're like, oh, you get that unsettling feeling.
Yep.
But then it's also like you get immediately shocked and scared because you see that what you thought was tubing now is like this deadly alien, but then you get put at ease a little bit because you see it's stuck and it can't go anywhere, and you're like, oh, so I do have a small advantage. I have just a few seconds to figure out something. And,
she literally has
Ripley
to force
being the badass action figure that she is. Hell yeah.
She has to force it out with like steam jets to get it to do what she's trying to accomplish there at the end. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Ripley, I love the fact that James Cameron, and you can probably tell me more about the background. I figured you would know more about the backdrop, but the fact that having a female lead of an action / horror / sci-fi movie in 1970, what is it, 7?
Yep, 1979.
1979, like that's, I'm sure there was a lot of pushback against it. There's still pushback to this day. I saw somebody post a picture of Sigourney Weaver from Alien, and they were posting about how she was such a queen or something like that, and then somebody came back with, if she was going to be in a movie like this, you'd think she'd at least like shave her bush or something like that. And I was like, bro, what the fuck are you? She's a fucking action hero. I've never heard you say Arnold should like shave his fucking armpits. Like, yeah, well, who gives a fuck? He's got some fuzz on his butt cheeks. Why are you paying attention to that when you have this whole image in front of you of this badass action figure? Why are you paying attention? Like,
they show you from the very beginning of this, she's the most competent person on that ship. When they wake up and they're trying to figure out exactly where they are and why they were woken up and off course, they're trying to hail the I believe the Antarctic radio base or whatever, and she keeps saying in the background, "This is not our system." Like she already knew from the jump that she's the most aware member of that ship.
She's very aware, and also she's well-meaning. And it seems like the characters have like this, this grid that they fall on of whether they know what the fuck they're doing or they don't know what the fuck they're doing. How much can you trust their opinion? And then the other is how much do they actually care about the people on board, or how much do they not give a fuck about the people's lives that are people on board? So like Dallas, he really cares about people, and you can tell he's very well-meaning. He's a good person. Like deep down, it seems like, I mean, I don't know what his life is outside of this shit, but he seems like a caring, kind boss kind of thing. But does he do the right thing? Fuck no, he doesn't. He broke quarantine. He should have enforced that quarantine right off the bat if he was Captain Picard would not have done that. That's all I'm going to say. Captain Picard would have kept proper quarantine protocol. I say that, but like, I don't know, probably like 30 episodes of Next Generation or something getting on the ship because they just beam it up. So.
Starfleet officers, now start acting like it. Are you questioning the validity of my plan?
I would like to hear a little bit more from Jamie, like an overall being her, because she's the only one of us. You've seen it like once, maybe, or maybe you watched it again since I held your eyes open, Clockwork Orange style, and made you watch it
Twice now.
Yeah. There's worse movies that I could force you to watch, so I hope that.
Well, I'm sure we'll get there. I had to watch Rise of Skywalker a second time. That was. All
right. Now you're definitely you've crossed the line into Star Wars slander.
We have already adjudicated that matter.
Anyways, we were talking about substandard sci-fi franchises. Your thoughts on Alien, Jamie?
How dare you, sir?
Kind of like, can we get this moving a little faster? I feel like we're just sitting here doing nothing, which can work. The tension leaves and you just get kind of bored. So there was a lot of that, not like at full on boredom, but like where I was just like, okay, we can move it forward. We can stop this. I thought it was really creepy that they're calling the ship or the controller Mother. That creeped me out. That was so creepy.
Norman Bates would have felt very at home on this ship.
Yes. So yeah, and then why are there gear belts thongs? That was one of my first notes. Oh, that doesn't help hold the gear belt up. It's a thong.
And also, like what he's wearing when he's wakes up from the medical bay after the facehugger falls. It's like lingerie or something.
Yeah,
yeah.
The costuming was a little weird. I get that it's futuristic, but yeah, like the thong had no use. Like that's not going to help hold up your pants. It's not. It just shows off your butt. That's what it was for. So I have some really interesting notes this time about a lot of production choices.
Well, give us some, okay, the thong harnesses. Yeah. You're not a big fan of those.
They're weird.
You're saying don't let me see that thong.
Yeah, I don't want to see the thong on the outside of your pants. This is not the 2000s.
You don't like the way they're moving that thing?
Right, exactly.
That thong.
The ship, when they're approaching the ship, it looks like a double-pronged dildo.
Oh yeah. That's Giger for you, man. Yep. His whole body of work is like phallic and feminine sexuality.
I saw a tweet the other day that imagine an alien going to poop and it squats down and out of its butthole another butthole comes out and then it comes out and poops.
Yeah. I saw that same tweet. Yes.
And I could see that happening, absolutely. But yeah, I'm like, okay, so if the ship you're going to looks like a double-pronged dildo, you know you're getting fucked. Like, there's no way this comes out good.
Yeah, hey, that visual
great foreshadowing.
Messaging.
So is the smaller alien in the alien's mouth the one that's actually piloting? Is it just piloting an alien mech suit?
No, that's just its little extra mouth that it has for getting hard to reach places.
It doesn't have a brain of its own?
Nah.
Oh, okay.
It's the Tonguestension.
It's just another opportunity to be phallic, because a big part of this movie is
Yes.
based on making men feel uncomfortable with male rape.
I definitely got that.
Do you ever think sometimes the alien accidentally, like when it's eating or something, it bites its own head like we bite our tongues?
Why do you do this?
I don't think it could hit its own head. Its head is behind.
Well, you know, the head
mouth.
inside its mouth. It's
little
tongue.
head.
It's tongue head. It's Tonguemouthhead.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Not its
probably.
head.
Yeah.
It's Tonguemouthhead.
I can only
Its
imagine.
teeth are a lot more prominent than ours. Like the teeth are much more forward. So unless it's really shoving the tongue head out, I'm going to go with no.
But yeah, so it was a large part of the actual, discussions and production of the movie is how do you scare people? How do you scare a largely male audience? With...
Big black leather-looking cocks. That's what you do.
Yeah, 100%. That's literally
That are
what
half
they
made
said.
out of metal, half made out of leather, but they're big black
and
cocks.
violating your body without
Yep.
your
Yeah.
consent.
Yeah, and so it's like violation, like forced oral violation, and then they make you give birth. It's just like every mainstream male's like fear projected onto the
He
screen
says
there.
fear. He says
Right.
fear.
And the scene where they're everything's covered in the white goo.
Oh yeah, I always laugh at that when they're setting his head up and it's just like dribbling out of his mouth. I always want to be like, somebody had a good night, like-
Right? There was some really good foreshadowing. Like, I loved when they're on the ship and they're like, oh, something exploded out of his chest. Yes, it did. Because even as somebody who's never seen the movie, that happens.
Yeah, yeah.
I love that part. There's there's a line that's because Prometheus tries to answer some of the questions that this movie lays down, like what was that being that they discover in the derelict ship.
Mm-hmm.
It's there. It's fossilized. I can see both sides of the argument. Like I like we'll get there eventually.
Mm-hmm.
To Prometheus, but I like what Prometheus does, a lot of it, but there's also the whole, it dispels the sort of Lovecraftian, this is all you get to wonder about, where did this come from, who is this race of beings, did they make the aliens, did the aliens attack them and overrun them, like what's going on here? There's a lot of unknown stuff that this movie just gives you to sit in.
I just remember thinking that the scientists in Prometheus were some of the dumbest fucking people I've ever seen in a TV show or movie ever.
In here!
And in Alien Covenant, too.
They're scientists. I have notes about this, too. Like, they're scientists, and they're, like, operating on things and cutting specimens open, and they have no eye protection, no face protection.
But I totally agree with you, and while watching the movie the first time, that's your first impression. But then you realize pretty quickly on, the only one doing all this is the fucking android guy. The guy that, he doesn't care. Even if he dies. If the ship comes back and everybody's fucking dead except the aliens running around tearing stuff up on the inside, that's perfect. That's exactly what they want. That way nobody's going to tell the story.
Like, the one guy got the white stuff in his mouth because he was standing too close and didn't have any protection on. Like,
hey, that's called friendly fire in the porn. And oh, sorry, my bad.
Right, exactly, but they're not porn actors. They're supposed to be scientists.
Technically, there was only one scientist on board. They are space truckers. They have mechanics, they have a pilot, they have some like, I guess, line workers or whatever, but the science officer.
They're blue collar workers. They're the salt of the earth working boot kind of people.
And that's the other, aside from all the sort of sexual assault scare that the aliens, life cycle brings to it, it's also the, capitalist, greed angle is another part of the horror in the backbone.
You see the horror in their faces when it's like, face something that is that could kill you and murder you in a horrible way, or you're not going to get paid, and they're like, fuck. I guess I gotta face this evil demon thing, because if I don't get paid, that sucks too. So you get an idea. They don't tell you what the financial system is back home, but you kind of get an idea that it's a capitalist run, like probably like an oligarchic, or, like it's I don't know, like now just with the volume turned up.
Yeah.
Like good sci-fi is supposed to be making commentary about today's world, but through a lens that makes you feel comfortable talking about it.
Which is sad that it was, 45 years old and it's still making the commentary about the same effing world we're living in.
Yep, corporations.
Well, it was right before
Reagan
took office, and what did Reagan do with corporations?
The corporations run the planets, make the laws. It's that kind of future dystopia. Like you said, a lot like Blade Runner. There's a lot of similarity to the way the corporate structure, I believe, is set up in the Aliens universe.
Well, and the people of today might not see it, but aside from the neon lights and the towering skyscrapers, which we do have in different areas, like our world is not that far off from the dystopia that a lot of people imagine as cyberpunk, or that whole, it's just the aesthetic is missing right now. A lot of the mechanics and the policies of what the government is and who they protect and stuff. I don't know. Anyways, it's not like we're talking about a Muppet movie here. We don't have to get serious.
I want to point out something that, it wasn't this viewing or the last one, but it was embarrassingly late. I guess it's probably obvious to anyone else, but, I always thought that they discovered this message, this relaying message, and that's what made the company, veer them off course. But after an embarrassing long time, and maybe about 5 years ago when I, was getting into the whole franchise and rewatching it, until then I hadn't realized that the company knew where this, sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Message, this ping,
distress
this
call?
beacon. Yeah, the distress call. They knew where that was, and they specifically diverted them to that area, going so far as to replace their normal science officer with this android. It took me years to actually pick up on that aspect. So it's
and
from
these truckers should have been
jump.
going home. They pulled them out instead of going home, we need you to make a diversion over here because yada yada. And then you can even make assumptions like, is everybody on that ship extra expendable? Because if you look at the guys working in the engineering bay, I forget their names, but the white guy with the cigarette hanging out of his mouth and the black guy that's always like getting yelled at about talking too much. Both of them, neither one of them look like real great workers, to be frank. They both are but I mean, I get it. I live in a capitalist world, so sometimes, if you're in a job that doesn't fucking respect you, you don't respect the job kind of thing. But, I don't know, maybe they were put there on purpose. None of those people there seem incredibly competent except for Ripley. And maybe they were just like, fuck Ripley, let's just get her the fuck out of here.
Well, she's also,
she dies, oh no.
She's also the youngest one on the crew, so hasn't had a chance to prove herself or whatever yet, probably,
I think too that you definitely get the sense that she's not well respected, even though she is the youngest. She might be a little bit of a button pusher, and that might be part of the reason why they were get rid of her.
Exactly. That's the impression I got, is that she's somebody that stands up a lot to people, and she's a no nonsense kind of person. So they're like, you know what? Which crew do we put her on? Let's put her with the fucking bad news bears. Let's send them out there afterwards for a little fucking rendezvous with the alien thing. Sounds great.
I do have multiple notes.
I don't want to hear her complain anymore.
Multiple notes of, oh look, a woman just trying to do her job and a man overrules her and fucks it up.
The quarantine thing, especially, because she literally was acting captain, and they disobeyed her and let them
But you
on
see
the ship.
why? It was one person that disobeyed her, and he did it on purpose because he had direct orders to do that. And and other than him, the whole crew is very likable. The way they put them together, it felt very organic, the conversation happening up to it. I don't know how much of this was ad-libbed, but it felt comfortable, good ad-lib. And if this was ad-libbed, good job from the director and everybody to let these actors just have their way with it a little bit. If this wasn't ad-libbed, even fucking better. But I will say that I learned this trick a long time ago. If you're ever having trouble with an actor looking natural in a scene, give them some food to eat. And almost every scene in this movie that involves the large scale cast is around food or beverage or something like that. And I'm like, maybe that was part of it. If you give them these lines and put them in front of food, there's a natural ebb and flow to the conversation that it adds chaos to the conversation that if you're just robotically saying the line. If you got a robotic actor, give him a fucking piece of chicken and have him recite the same line.
I have a couple of interesting behind the scenes stuff. One of them is when the chest burster scene happens. They were the actors were told that this is the scene where the creature is going to emerge. I think the script page said just like the creature emerges, and they knew it was going to have something to do with the character Kane. What they didn't know is that there were large blood packs installed in the dummy body of him lying on the thing that would explode outward. So there's, if you ever have a chance to go back and look, when it bursts out, blood flies everywhere and hits several of them in the face, and the character Lambert is freaking out, and that's a real genuine reaction because they did not know that blood was going to fly out, and douse them in their
And it
face
was
and get in
super
their eye and stuff.
in character for her because
The
she
classic,
was
oh god.
Yeah,
that one.
yeah.
she was pretty useless and overdramatic about everything. So that
Yeah.
fit so well.
I'm
with
so
her
glad they
character.
put Ripley in, or else this movie would have been like on the top list of like sexist portrayals of
Yes.
women, because she was just like, oh my god, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just constantly
like
all
sheer
the time.
panic. Yep.
I was curious that when Kane wakes up, so he wakes up, and this is before he has his "Hello, my baby" scene. We all know what I'm talking about, right? Like
Yep.
Spaceballs. Like
100%.
I saw
Yep.
that scene long
He said-
before I saw
yeah.
the movie.
Exactly.
So
Yep.
It's the same actor. Did you know that?
Yes.
And he's like, not
yeah.
again.
Yep.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, that's why every time I see the actual alien pop out in the movie Alien, I chuckle a little bit because it looks very similar. I expected to, hello, my
And
baby. Anyway.
have the hat and the cane.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
If he went into cryo in between those times, because they brought it up at one point, like, why don't we just put him into cryo for the journey home? Why wouldn't everybody agree to that? It seems like the crew would be okay with that. The doctor guy, even the scientist guy, the android guy, like, he'd be like, yeah, whatever. We still get the sample back. Whatever, that's fine. I think that could have been a real easy end to the movie if they just, I mean, obviously, like, I'm not saying that it was a loophole or it was bad for the script. I was just thinking that would have been an interesting story too, to have him go into cryo, because then the alien's just sitting there dormant and waiting for them to get back home. And as soon as they get home, then it comes
Now
out.
that's the plot to Aliens. Now you just ruined that.
My headcanon for that is that the androids in this film series seem to have a propensity for going a little insane. And I think I would think that Ash was curious enough to, like, let's see what happens. You know what I mean? Like, I think that may have been an intentional thing on his part to keep him out, to let's just see what happens with this. What's going to happen? What did it do to him?
Yeah, and it seems like less that they're going insane and more that they get stuck in a logic loophole where they find something to be the correct choice, but it's absolutely horrible to a human
Right.
being hearing it because they don't have that humanity. Like, well, if it does kill everybody in the crew, that actually lessens the risk and exposure in a lot of ways, and blah, 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 blah. You're talking about killing fucking 7 people. Well, that's minor compared to think of how many people are going to be saved by this
Exactly.
stuff. You
Yeah.
should thank me for this.
But then you have David, who clearly actually went insane. We'll get there.
I also, like, I have to say, when they ejected the body, I laughed. I don't know why. It was funny to me. Like, it was just funny to me.
It flies.
Yeah.
It's like head
thing.
over heels over and over.
I was
yeah.
I was sitting there laughing.
Well, and to a certain degree, from what I understand about how, like, the air pressure in space would work and stuff like that, to a certain degree, like, there may be a bit of a rush if you have a very pressurized area and you open it quickly without depressurizing it. But I don't think it's going to, like, shoot out like a goddamn cannon like that. I mean, it might come out with some speed, but, like, it's all relative too. Once it's a good 100 meters away from your ship, it just kind of turns invisible anyway. So, you know.
Well, Mr. Sci-Fi, was that because it was moving fast or because the ship was moving fast?
Was the ship moving? I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
It seemed a little bit quicker than what my brain was expecting to see. But then again, like, they have to, like, somebody has to try it the first time. Like, I remember.
It also kind of looked like it's going to hit that big chunk
Yes.
that's hanging down.
Yep.
Like that.
The whole, like, I was cracking up.
we were watching, or I watched some kind of really early sci-fi. Maybe it was like 2001 or something like that, but it was an early sci-fi film, and somebody was about to do a spacewalk without an EVA suit. And the number one thing they were worried about is their eyes exploding because of the pressure difference. And it's like, now that we've actually done more studies on what pressure, what being outside of a ship would do to you, like, we understand that there are other things that would be, like the lung pressure, your lung pressure would be a big problem. Your anus pressure and stuff like that would be a big problem. And the gamma radiation would be a huge issue. You'd burn to death in a matter of seconds from the gamma radiation. So there are other, but
Yeah.
how did they know? They didn't fucking know. It's sci-fi. They're trying to figure it out. Transporters don't work either in real life. Not yet. So,
That's what you think.
Another behind the scenes tidbit, harking back just to how much of the Alien design and the franchise owes to itself to Giger and his work. The Ridley Scott was recommended his work by the writer of the movie, Dan O'Brien, I believe was his name, and was like, name. He's like, oh, we've solved the biggest production issue. Like, instantly was enamored with it. Fox thought it was a little too sexual and horrific looking, and audience wouldn't respond to it. So I believe, and we can come back and I'll research this a little bit more. But
I can imagine that meeting, Fox going, "We're afraid that the alien is a bit too sexual," and Geiger's like, "You're right.
Yeah.
That's a problem." Right. No, it's not.
Right. That's the intent.
Me. He gets out an alien doll and he gets real close to the Fox executive's face and he's like, "Is this making you uncomfortable? Is it making you uncomfortable? Okay, you can have your fucking movie. Just stop."
Would you say the head of this creature looks a bit like a penis? Yes. Please.
It reminds me of my dad.
So Ridley Scott, paid, I think it was $2,000 or something, for the concept art initially when Fox denied him, so he could go back and be like, "Look, we have to do this shit." And so he was a staunch fighter for having, Giger do the design of the spaceship and the alien, the facehugger and all that stuff, which is just,
this movie lives off that. This movie,
100%.
This movie eats off of the alien design and the aesthetic, and a couple of really solid performances from some people.
I know this is our listeners can't see this, but I'm just going to throw in the chat here the concept art before Giger came on board for the alien creature.
I think I've seen it, but
it's nowhere near, it's just standard sci-fi
exactly,
shit.
No, it looks like something from Futurama.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah.
Family Guy or Futurama. That would be their version.
These people talk like the Moonanites from Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
You couldn't survive the birthing process using even 100% of your brain.
Yeah, that's right. You're fucking losers.
Yeah, this little cartoon
Toe Jam and Earl.
Man.
This is Toe Jam. Yeah, no. I mean, it's still if one of us saw this fucking thing in a dirty alley, or any alley, I guess, clean or dirty.
Yeah, a pristine, clean alley. Yeah,
it would be different if the alley was clean. I would feel much more comported. I would.
We're back to that porn
to handle
that
myself.
Kelly was watching, apparently.
But yeah, if you saw one of these in an alley, it would be scary. So I'm not trying to take anything away from the original artists. That is kind of scary. But also, how do you do that? You'd have to, I don't know. The fact that it's less human is better for the xenomorph, the final design.
Well, there's something.
Where is its eyes? I don't know. I don't think it has eyes.
There's an interesting tidbit about that, right? Because they say one of the big things about monster design is if it looks like a guy in a suit, then it's less scary. Somehow the alien is literally a guy in a suit, and yet it's one of the more alien-looking aliens that we have, sort of, in pop culture, just because, the head, the pipes coming out of the back,
it doesn't
weird
look like
tubing all over it.
It doesn't look like a guy in a suit, especially the way they have it scurrying on the walls and stuff like that. You can see that it's bipedal and stuff like that, but even then, only sometimes. And It looks very normal and at ease when it's quadruped mode. So
it looks pretty normal and at ease in every it just flows.
Yeah.
What's your? I want to get everybody's favorite scene from the movie.
I think it is probably right as they're setting up for the chest burster. Everything's so normal and nobody's suspicious at all, and flowing all good, and then all of a sudden he just starts coughing, and then all hell breaks loose.
That's a good one. That is a classic scene.
I would have a hard time picking, so I'm gonna kind of half and half it, but they're both kind of the same thing. They're both scenes where Ripley and the robot are talking. What's the robot's name? Daniel?
Ash.
With where Ripley and Ash are talking. One of them is when the quarantine scene that we talked about, where Ash eventually lets them in through the airlock, and that whole conversation's happening. But the main one that I like is when Ripley and Ash are talking in the science lab. And it's because after I've watched it once and I've gone back and watched it again, I can see what Ash is doing. And Ash is hiding from her, and Ash is actually kind of paranoid.
Oh yeah, he turns that fucking screen off that's showing the inside of his body. Yep, mm-hmm. He's not letting her see what's going on.
He knows what's going on, and he doesn't want her to see
100%.
It. And she starts nosing in, and he's actively pushing against her. But it's all in subtext, and it's in a sense that if you know what he's doing, it's very obvious what he's doing. But the first time you watch it, you see him as just being slightly, he's kind of obfuscating a little bit, but not too much. He's just being obstinate and kind of a pain in the ass.
I think that's
but then
where
you said, like, no, he's actively trying to murder people almost, kind of.
I think that's where I put Ash is obviously not trustworthy, but I didn't catch all of that because I didn't know.
Yeah, that go back and watch that scene again. That's one of those where it's a quick scene, but go back and watch Ash and Ripley.
Honestly, this viewing is the first time that I actually got a good look at what is on that screen, and it's like a little embryo in the chest area.
He knows what's going on before it happens. He knows that it's about to break out. Like he might not know where it's coming out or anything, but he knows it's growing inside his chest.
But he probably does because they already knew that something burst out of this other thing's chest. So
yeah, he probably knew, and he probably had.
That's my read. Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah. Mine is the when Brett goes looking for the kitty cat in the I guess it's the engine exhaust room, and we see the adult alien drop down for the first time. It's just so fucking crazy looking, and it's huge. You know, it grew so quickly. Yeah. It's like maybe an hour since they started looking for it.
Yeah,
and
holy
it's
hell, that
7
grew
feet
fast.
tall.
That was my note.
Where did it get all those proteins to build all that? Like, how does it build that much mass in such a short period of time?
It's not proteins, remember?
Well, the mass still has to come from somewhere. We know through the law of conservation, the mass has to come from somewhere.
All over that ship, man. He said it's a blend of silicon and.
So is eating the ship?
Yeah, I imagine so. Partly, yeah.
I mean, I'm down with that. That's part of what I was curious about. Like, did it have to eat a human? Because it does get it ate something after it became. So it eats what's his name, the John Hurt guy. It eats Kane. It gets some of its nutrients from him, but then it eats something else. It takes. Is it
Dallas.
still small?
No, it doesn't. I don't know that
because it goes from 1 foot long and maybe a couple of pounds heavy, maybe 5-10 pounds heavy, to 10 feet tall and probably 200-300 pounds. You would gather at least.
Yeah, that's where
where's that mass come from? It's got to eat the fucking bulkhead and shit.
That's the fiction in our science, but you could reasonably say that it probably took some from. That's always been my take. And in later movies, they put out resin, some kind of weird resin that they build hallways with and shit. And it's part of the unknown of the creature. But yeah, but that being my favorite scene calls back to one of my favorite social media posts, and it just says, "Guy designing the Nostromo. However many chains you think we need on the ship, double, then triple that number." And that's what we'll put in the ship's chain room. And then the assistant, "Yes, sir. And the chains are dry, of course." Yeah. The designer, "You're fired." It's all that dripping water and chains.
Why is it raining in the ship? That's weird.
Yeah, this ship was not designed in the idea that it was going to be facing many G-forces in either direction. And again, watching The Expanse and reading The Expanse, it makes you think about gravitational forces differently. That, like, unless you've got a way to interact with that and counteract that, anybody in that shop area, as soon as you start moving in a direction, they're fucking dead, man. Like, those chains are just going to break off and fly everywhere. And
the moisture is, I always took it as either engine exhaust or maybe their atmospheric whatever creation or whatever is going to put off water.
Random condensation as they're traveling through space.
They develop an inertial dampeners and just basic gravity inside the ship. That's what Star Trek does, and nobody But then again, that makes you think, like, why when we get hit by a torpedo, why does everybody shake on the bridge? We have inertial dampeners. That shouldn't happen.
But anyway. The real reason is so that you have a spooky, drippy chain room.
Yes.
You're talking about Alien again. I was like, wait a minute, which episode of Star Trek was that?
Kelly wants to go back and watch it right now.
After watching Alien, now you see why I watch so much Star Trek. Star Trek is nice and comfortable compared to this.
You know what that actually reminds me of? That reminds me of in Galaxy Quest, when they have the path that leads to their engine room has all those clamping pistons, because that's the way it happened on an episode of the show. You know, there's like no reason for it to be there, but yeah.
Love the fact that the Nostromo, part of what keeps this crew going, I'm sure, and has been mentioned by a couple of the crew members there, but it has good coffee. And that shows you even a cheap-ass corporation like, what is it, Wutani something? Wayland?
It's Wayland in this one. There's a merger that happens off screen, and the next one is Wayland Yutani.
Okay, that's what makes
yeah.
me... Yeah, so Wayland Industries, as cheap as they are and as horrible as they are, they know that they got to keep their people happy some way, and nothing beats a good cup
coffee.
of coffee. And also,
Amen.
you can tell it's such a product of the time that they're just openly smoking cigarettes on the bridge while they're piloting a ship. I can't imagine like a pilot of a 747 smoking a pack of Marlboros while he's fucking piloting your ship. Like, you crack a beer too? Do you put the game on? Like, what are you doing up there,
But
buddy?
you can imagine a truck driver doing it though, and that's kind of what we're
Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't take away from it, but it also, like, I grew up in the 80s. I'm used to seeing adults smoking in places that nowadays people would be like, oh, like smoking in a restaurant. Like, you remember back in the day, smoking used to be 90 or like 80% of the restaurant. And then you'd have a non-smoking section was just a circle of tables that you weren't allowed to smoke at, but you're right next to the fucking people that are smoking anyways.
They used to fire up on airplanes, like, constantly. It's crazy.
Yeah, there are two people that I just kept writing shut up, and one was Parker. He must be the unfortunately they made the black guy be the guy that's just constantly talking and paying no attention to what's going on, but he's the guy that if I were on his crew, I'd have a hard time not saying, Parker, shut up. Just shut up. Let him talk. Like, we can bitch after, let him finish his sentence
They
first.
say that quite a few times to him.
Yeah, and that's why I'm
Don't
like,
they?
I totally understand Dallas's point of view. Parker, he's like, Parker, are you fucking kidding me right now? Or even Ripley, she's like, come on, man. And I'm like, yeah, just shut up. Like, I get it. We're all pissed off, but you interrupting ain't gonna help anything.
In defense of Parker, I like Parker as the working man who's trying to get more shares. I can appreciate
Oh, dude,
his
I
struggle.
totally, I love the character in so many ways, and I like the fact that he seemed like the more competent and caring of the engineering duo. But I just wish he would just go ahead and bitch afterwards. But it made it more common. It made it feel very realistic that he was, me saying, I wish the character would shut up isn't me maligning the writing. That's actually good writing because your character is engaging and frustrating me, just like he's frustrating some of the other people on the screen. And the other person, I wrote the same thing, shut up a few times, was the crying woman. I didn't even know her name at the point. I just put crying. Thank you. Crying woman, shut up. Crying woman, shut up. Like, you're not adding anything to this. Please just go.
Wow, what a misandrist you are.
Yeah,
Crying woman, shut up.
I'm telling the black man and the crying woman both to shut the fuck up. So, yeah. Okay, maybe I'll cut this out. We'll see.
I do want to mention, because I think it's kind of an important note to make, that obviously this movie is way back before we learned about what flashing lights can do to people.
Oh, yeah. There's no epilepsy warning at the beginning, and it needs one.
Serious pulsing and flashing lights for extended period of time, to a point that I literally covered my eyes and looked away from the screen and peeked back at it a few times because it was.
I was trying to think
me.
what part you're talking about, but I guess it's when the self-destruct thing is going and all the siren and all the warning lights are going. Yeah,
and it goes for a while.
It's more than just one time too, Erica. There are a few times in the show where I was thinking that if I were epileptic, this could probably trigger something. So yeah, it's surprising that it didn't have a warning nowadays.
I'm not epileptic, but it does make me sick. So I get sick, almost motion sick from it. So that's why I looked away. But I think that it does need to be mentioned.
So, if we were going to replace one of these characters with a human and have everybody else played by the Muppet, are we leaving the alien the same and then he's just terrorizing the whole ship of Muppets?
That's exactly what I was thinking, is the alien stays played by humans, same size in the suit. Everybody else is Muppets.
I agree, because I want Janice to be Lambert. I
think it would be... I almost want to have Sigourney, too, as a human.
Yes,
but, I totally get it if she's a Muppet, too. That's doubly funny if the Nostromo is piloted all by Muppets. I would love to see, a good bit of the movie ahead of time before the alien gets there, kind of implying that even if the alien didn't show up, the Muppets would still fucking crash the ship and never make it home, because they're all fucking farting around and doing... Animal takes apart the engine and makes drums out of it, and they can't fly anymore or something.
Maybe that's it. Maybe the movie Alien is just all of them farting around on the ship, and then Alien never shows up, but they all die anyways.
Animal is playing the alien?
That would be great.
No,
he's constantly going through the ship going, alien!
Yeah,
it's
Gonzo. Yep, Gonzo would be the alien.
Gonzo is
no,
the
then
alien.
he'd try to fuck everybody.
No, just chickens.
His nose is what pops out of your chest first.
In space, they can't hear the chickens balk.
Oh, okay. So, what does a popcorn bucket look like for this?
It's the alien egg.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
With the goop.
I mean, I know, not with the goop. It's I've always thought it looks like a chicken cutlet sitting in there when he's looking at it and opens it.
And just the order of movies that we did, I was half expecting Stripe to come out.
I mean the gremlin eggs are very alien coated.
Yes.
I'm not gonna lie. And obviously this came out first to influence that a little bit.
And there's a little bit of like, what are those eggs that it's like a delicacy in a different culture where you crack open the egg and there's a whole formed bird inside of it?
1,000-year eggs, the century eggs.
No, there's a name. Like they use them in Star Trek as like exotic food sometimes, and they give them to actors to eat. But hold on, you don't know what I'm talking about? The egg with the thing inside of it. With bird inside.
Oh yeah. It's like the partially developed
balut. Yeah. It's a fertilized bird egg, usually a duck, incubated for a period of 14 to 21 days, and then eaten directly from the shell. And honestly, like I've seen inside balut eggs, maybe it's just in videos or something like that, and the top of the alien egg looks like it's very close to that. Like there's this film of liquid, and then there's obviously something like fleshy underneath. Yeah. And the alien egg was so like, again, stupid fucking, I mean, these are truck drivers, at least they're not scientists, but like you open that up and you see that and you're just like, hey, I wonder what this does. And you start poking at, no, run away. You immediately run away.
Especially when you're like in a field. He said they're eggs. They're like, if I saw a field of eggs that big, I'd be like, fuck this.
I don't even want to go in the field, let alone start poking at one of the eggs and shit. Like, you're a bold motherfucker. Yeah. Like, you kind of had that coming.
Right.
He had it coming. He had it coming. He only had himself to blame.
And then go figure, in Prometheus, that's one of my biggest complaints. Like, I've only seen it once, and it was many, many years ago. Like, when it first came out, I went to the theater. Even though I hadn't seen any of the Aliens movies, I went to see Prometheus, which was that's a choice. But
that's the only one I've seen.
Yeah, I had the same choice up until Keith made me do this, but like I walked out of there going, it's almost unbelievable just because. And then of course when there's a big huge showdown in Prometheus between two main characters of the franchise, and I don't know each one of these things, and I'm just like, okay, so it's two men in suits beating each other up for 10 minutes. Cool. Right. Everybody that's an Alien fan in the theater is going, oh my god, did you see that? They're the Ed McMahon or whatever his name is, Steve McMahon, or the meme. Never mind. Your mind's blown. You know what I'm saying? Hey man, don't give me this malarkey.
The scientists are very stupid, but there's also human curiosity is kind of a problem dating back to as long as humans have been around. So there is that the God, I just need to know. I just need to look.
That's me. I'm a curious.
I get it. Even, I mean, I again, as a Star Trek fan, I listen to Star Trek podcasts, and they've reviewed several podcasts have reviewed several episodes where a Starfleet officer beams down to a planet that they've never been before, and either they find a piece of fruit on the ground or somebody offers them food, and they just immediately pop it into their mouth and eat away. Like, you don't even know what the fuck you're eating, man. That could be like completely poisonous to you or something, but you don't know how.
And literally, going back as far as humanity goes, there are stories about not just taking random food from
the geologists don't lick the rock kind of, you know that meme?
Yeah,
like
it's the equivalent of if you stepped off a plane into India and like scooped some water off the ground and drank it. Like,
you don't even know where that came from. Where that came out of a body orifice, man. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
That's not water.
But yeah, so okay, who was your MVP? Who was your number one performer for this movie? Jamie, who is yours? You haven't seen it before, so let's hear yours. We'll put you on the spot.
There's a lot of really good performances. I mean, really good performances. Yeah. So it's really hard. And obviously Ripley's the obvious answer, so I'm skipping that one. And I am gonna go with Ash. I think that he does a really good job of not being quite likable, but just enough to make you be like, man, I could see liking him. So I'm going to go with Ash.
I think that's a solid fucking choice, and I can totally see that. Ash just pisses me off so much. That means the actor's doing such a good job at playing him that I can't like him.
Old Bilbo
Yes.
Baggins, yeah.
You can't trust Bilbo.
Yeah, and I would go a similar note that I think that John Hurt playing Kane did a fucking great job. Like, it doesn't seem like much, but then you realize that he's a classic British actor and stuff like that, and he played an American trucker, random white guy dude as best, like he played it in a way that his physicality when he's getting hurt and shit like that that has effects on you. Like I've talked about before, when you put your body through that kind of fake trauma, that has real fucking traumatic effects to a lot of your body systems. So you gotta be careful with that shit. So yeah, I think I would go with John Hurt on this one. And I'm just a huge John Hurt fan. What about you, Keith?
Jonesy the cat.
Jonesy is awesome.
Because Ripley literally jeopardizes her life and her ability to like escape to have to go back for the cat.
Totally get that. Would do the same.
Cat don't give a fuck about any of them. Like
No.
she watches that one guy dying, and it's just like, yeah, look at that.
It's a cat. Cats are notoriously don't give a fuck.
Yeah, that is literally the most cat-ass thing that they put in there, is him just staring at like he's getting eaten? Okay, well, crazy. Like, that's like the look on his face.
He won't be feed me tonight. Doot, doot, doot.
almost smarmy. Like, at least it wasn't me.
That means that in the first movie of the Alien franchise, when we have reviewed it, none of us gave the MVP award to Sigourney Weaver.
I literally said I'm skipping her because she's the obvious one.
It's the two obvious.
That means you skipped her. Yeah, that literally means you skipped her.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sad day. Maybe next time. You go figure, we'll have her in the next movie, but she'll be up against amazing actors like Rob Reiner. That's his name? What's the guy's name?
Definitely not Rob Reiner.
Not Rob Reiner. No, it's fucking what's the guy from Mad About You? What's his fucking name?
Paul Reiser.
Yeah, Paul.
Yes,
Reiser.
yes. There's some similar sounding letters in there.
Yeah, totally different people.
Rob Reiner, Paul Reiser,
Bill Paxton, Lance Henriksen. Michael Bean. Yeah, Michael Bean. Like, how many times are we going to get Michael Bean in a movie? So we gotta show some love to him when we get it.
The Jamie, I will say, as you have the next movie probably solves a lot of the whatever problems you did mention with this one.
Okay.
It's my favorite in the franchise, and I just think it's an excellent movie. So I'm excited to get there. This one is it's good, and I like it, and obviously it's the original, and it starts a whole franchise, but it's definitely, a product of its time, and a non-established property, so it doesn't have all the money in the world being thrown at it. There's a couple of shots of the alien in the first Alien where it's like kind of weird, hokey looking, like there's that scene where it's just like walking slowly towards Lambert with his arms outstretched, and I'm just like, yeah, okay, whatever, rubber suit.
There's something to be said about the fact that, like, this movie is a horror movie. Terminator 1 is a horror movie. Terminator 2 is an action movie. Alien 2 is an action movie. And both of those franchises got better for it. Like, yes. I think the franchises, like, I wouldn't even say that Terminator 1 and Alien 1 needed to be horror movies, or needed to be action movies. Like, they worked just fine as horror movies to set the stage, so now the action actually has, like, higher consequences and such like that.
The
like,
stakes are higher, you're familiar with the situation.
But much like the transition from Terminator to Terminator 2, Alien to Aliens is a lot in the same way. Like, they decide, let's not do a horror movie this time. We'll keep those horror elements, but everything's going to move a lot quicker, and it's going to be more about what happens. When and next time, like, minor spoiler, but next time it's not just a bunch of unsuspecting fucking hillbilly truck drivers. Next time it's people that are, have weapons and shit.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, so it's a little bit more fair footing in the very least. And I mean, I don't know if you call it fair. You'll have to make that call at the end. So, but now we've discussed everything that there is possibly in the entire world to ever say about Alien. But the real question that we want to know is, and definitely Keith and I both want to know, is, Jamie, did you like it? Would you give it a thumbs up?
You really want to do this? Here. Now? Yes. Okay. Let's do it!
I am gonna give it a thumbs up. Trepidatiously.
I've never heard a thumbs up sound so much like a thumbs down in my life.
Right.
There is an unspoken button there the size of a truck.
Yeah. There's a lot about it that I didn't like. There was a lot of downtime, and it got really slow in a lot of places. And But the acting is amazing. The soundtrack is really great. It makes me jump. I did scream at one point, I think, in the twist. I'm pretty sure I screamed even though I knew it was coming because I couldn't see it and I was waiting for it. So, yeah, I mean, it's a thumbs up. I'm glad I watched it once. I don't know that I'll ever watch it again. So, Kelly, what about you?
Yeah, I give it a thumbs up. I enjoyed it. Like, on a 1 to 10 scale, this is a 7. It's definitely in the good category, but it's not great to me. And the same reasons we kind of all discussed is that I love the aesthetic, I love the music, I love the acting, I love the performances, I love the acting, I like the setting. I wish we saw a little bit more of it, but I understand that this is like a bottle episode for that kind of thing. So many things about it that I absolutely love, including the villain. The villain is amazing. It's so amazing that it spawned an entire franchise just on its own. Fucking cool. But I totally agree with Jamie that it drags, and this is the kind of movie that I will view this movie in 2 ways. One, I will put it on in the background just for like the sound effects and the ambiance of whenever the screen I look at it, it looks like something cool, because there are a lot of cool set pieces and matte paintings or whatever the fuck they use, but it looks really cool. The other way that if I want to see story beats, I will literally just look up the scenes, or I'll scan through the movie. I'm not watching the whole movie to get the lore again. If I want to see the lore again, I'll just go watch the actual scenes I want to see, so that I don't have to sit through 35 minutes of like pretty much the Jaws theme and dark rooms in order for me to see 5 minutes of dialogue I want to see. So, what about you, Keith?
Oh, well, it's a clear thumbs up from me, but I mostly agree with all of the critiques that you guys have. I didn't start with Alien as a kid. The first one I saw was Aliens, and it's like, oh, okay, well, let me see the first one, see how it happmes. And it's like,
that's
oh, yeah.
Letdown.
Oh, yeah, okay, I see that. You know, that's kind of the reaction.
That's a bad direction to go in. Yeah.
I've warmed up to it more just because I've become a real fan of the creature designs, and I'm fascinated by the alien life cycle. In retrospect, like knowing about how the black goo comes all into play with everything, and it's just, I don't know. It's definitely a thumbs up. Not the best in the franchise, though. I'm excited especially to hear from Jamie about the next one, because I know you're pretty warm on Aliens as well, Kelly. So
I mean, I've already said I gave this one a thumbs up, and the next one gets even a better rating from me.
Yeah,
like this one's a 7, and 8. This one's like a 7, and Aliens is like an 8.5, 9. Yeah. So
okay.
It's one of the better action sci-fi movies I've seen. It's up there with Terminator 2. Like, it's not as good as Terminator 2 in my opinion, but it's a worthy. It can occupy the same space as a Terminator 2 or a Blade Runner or something like that.
And I like that when you're comparing them in that way, even before you said it this time, because I did really like Terminator 2. Went back and watched Terminator, much like Keith did here, and was like, oh, okay, well, Terminator 2 is way better.
yeah. And going in that direction sucks. I did the same thing. Right. I saw Terminator 2 before I actually watched Terminator, and that kind of sucks. I wish I would have experienced it the proper way, but then again, our age bracket, at least, like those movies came out when I was either not born yet or I was 1 year old. My parents weren't going to take me at 1 year old to go see Alien.
Right.
So,
and I certainly, me and my being terrified of everything horror as a child, my parents definitely weren't going to let me watch Terminator.
I have a similar thing with Terminator, but that one, I've warmed to that a lot because I've realized it's essentially almost Halloween with a robot. It's like very, very, very strong slasher vibes with a sci-fi futuristic like paint job on it.
I can see that,
it's just an unstoppable man that won't die no matter what you throw at him, trying to kill one specific person. Mm-hmm. So, it definitely shares some ties with that sort of thing.
And we get to see more of the world, and that's what I love. Anytime we get to see sci-fi, that's why I enjoy so much Star Trek, is because we get to see more of what happens. Like, I know what life looks like on Mars in the Federation. I know what San Francisco looks like. I know what Alaska looks like. I know what fucking Romulus looks like. We get to see all these different cultures and expand on them, and that's what I enjoy. Terminator 2, Aliens, they both, like, we get to see what Earth looks like a little bit more in Aliens. We get to find out what more people are like other than just these truckers in this one fucking truck. There are some smarmy people, there are some intelligent people, there are some interesting people, but yeah, so that was our thought on Alien. We had one singular thought, and that was it. And that means that if you defer from that, then you're wrong. And I'm sorry. It's okay.
Do not break from the hive mind under penalty of death.
Resistance is futile.
But next, we get to go to Jamie's pick for our series, and we're going to go ahead and announce it right here. I think it's a good idea to announce our next one.
She's going to help us ring in the new year.
Yes, I am.
Lord. Oh, Lord. What are we going to watch, Jamie?
I am super excited because, like, I geek out really hard about it, and I can go into all the lovely things I've done, like learn Elvish. We're watching the Lord of the Rings series, so starting with the Fellowship of the Ring.
Oh my
Yay!
God. I am both incredibly excited for this, and I am incredibly trepidatious because
And already exhausted.
I don't know how the fuck are we going to talk, because I already said that if we're going to do it, we got to do the extended editions. I'm not doing some half-assed theatrical release thing. We got to do the fucking 3-hour, 45-minute each editions. That means that, like, first off,
almost 5 hours for Return of the King. Just
Jesus
5
Christ!
hours.
Like, how do we fit that into 3 1-hour episodes of us talking about it? Even like, it feels like even to fit a normal movie into an hour, we get a pretty good pace going. You know, it feels like even afterwards, I'm like, oh fuck, we could have talked about blank. Like, what we haven't talked about lately is fucking blockbuster numbers. Like, how did the Alien do? What was the critical reception to it? We just kind of like squeeze right past that lately, you know, because we're trying to make sure that we're not, you know, taking up too much of your all time. You know, maybe, you know, let us know. Would you rather have it a little bit longer form with a little bit more data and stuff like that? But even with Lord of the Rings, Jesus Christ, how are we going to do it? Like, we even off mic, we're not sure. We don't know.
there's a lot of vistas that we don't have to go into detail.
The Vista.
We might have to cut it into 2 episodes, so this might take us 6 weeks to get through Lord of the Rings. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I could talk about Lord of the Rings for forever. I could probably do a podcast just on
love
Lord
it.
of the Rings.
It feels like if we don't, we're not doing it justice. It's kind of
Right.
like when we
Right.
did The Wiz and we talked about it for 2 hours and 40 minutes or whatever. Like, it feels like if we cut anything of that out, it would have been not doing that part of the story justice.
Right.
And it feels like there are so many elements that make Lord of the Rings what it is. How do you not talk about it all? Like, talking about the music could take up a half hour of each movie's episode. Talking about the set
The
dressings,
fucking
the
production
productions,
design. Yeah, like all the armor.
how they did the special effects. Lord of the Rings in general, talking about the source material and J.R.R. Tolkien and stuff like that. Like,
Viggo Mortensen's toe.
oh my God, what the other editions that have come out before and after, and how well they did, or how close to the source material this is. Shit, Keith and I were playing Lord of the Rings online not too long ago, and there's some cool shit that we got to see in that was kind of like running cold.
I'm literally currently reading the books for the first time. I just finished
Bless
the
your
2
heart.
Towers last week. Yeah.
Bless your heart. The
Jeez.
Return of the King is a bit of a slog.
Well, I'm really enjoying it. It helps that I've seen the movies,
Right.
so I can actually put some visuals
Yeah.
to what I'm, hearing.
Yeah.
I got through the Fellowship of the Ring really easy. Got through 2 Towers pretty easy. Return of the King was a slog. Like, there's a lot of detail in there that I'm like, okay.
God bless y'all. I can't take Tolkien's writing style. I'm so happy that he made the world he did. I'm so happy that Peter Jackson came out with those movies so that I could see the stories in a way that makes sense, because I was not going to read those fucking books.
The Hobbit is an amazing book to read.
Yeah,
The Hobbit was fine. I got through Hobbit just fine, but Fellowship of the Ring, halfway through, I'm like, I don't care that Aragath begat Oregon, and like, I don't give a fuck. It's reading like a history textbook, and I'm like, if I want to read a history textbook, if I want to memorize names from history, I feel like I'm better served memorizing names from Earth's history. I'm going to take up that space in my brain. There's something in my mind that goes, why don't we do that with the real stuff first? Then if you get tired of looking up real history, then look up this fake history shit.
I watched The Fellowship of the Ring 13 times in theaters.
Wow.
I have not seen it that many times in theaters, but I think it kind of go hand in hand with what a big event it was, that it was a cultural touchstone.
Yeah.
And we all had something. I can't speak for y'all, but I assume we all had big life events that are tied in with this, and big emotions around that franchise. And we'll probably get into some of our personal trauma, which that'll be fun too. Yay!
Yay! Therapy as a pod.
Yeah. Oh, and real quick, I just wanted to ask, seeming as Keith brought it up, like maybe every once in a while we'll do like what are y'all reading? So Keith, you're reading 2 Towers. You just finished it. You're going right on to Return of the King?
Yeah, I'd like to finish that up by the time we get to Return of the King. So
Are you enjoying it? Would you recommend reading the series?
I would. If you're fans of the movies, like I said, it helps to have seen the movies first, because even in the Two Towers, there's some of it's kind of a slog, but I don't know, it's great to get all this backstory and reading it, and like part of the fun is thinking about Tolkien inventing and coming up with all this stuff so long ago.
Yes.
It's like it's fascinating to me that like what 80% of standard fantasy tropes are like kind of collected, and while he didn't invent everything,
but he fleshed
put
it
them
out.
together. Yeah, he fleshed it out and put it together in such a way that it's like you can draw a direct line from like almost anything. Dungeons and Dragons, you can fall all the way back to
how much of our
Tolkien,
stereotypes growing up in like the D&D generation came from this, and it felt like it had always been there. It felt ancient by the time I was born, and that's
right.
That that's good storytelling.
Like the Fellowship is the classic D&D adventuring party, right? You have a dwarf, a ranger, an elf archer.
It's a little big for a party. I don't know, having 11 people or whatever it is at a D&D table might be a bit much for most.
Well,
DMs.
if you do it like
If you
do it like the Fellowship, where only like 5 of them are actually actively doing anything at any good it's helpful at any time.
So, what are you reading, Jamie? Are you reading anything right now?
Right now, I am not. My ADHD has been getting to me, but there is a series of cozy mysteries that I've been reading a lot of, and they're set in Michigan, and I just love them.
You want to name them? You want to give them a shout
They're
out?
the Witches of the Midwest series by, let me get her name, because it's Amanda something, I'm pretty sure.
Amanda Hugginkiss?
Yeah, sure, that's what it is. No. Amanda Emily.
Hey.
The Wicked Witches
Amanda
of the
Emily.
Midwest.
She's got 2 first names.
Yeah.
Amanda and Lee. Is it Amanda
Emily.
or Lee?
But they're all set in Michigan and northern Michigan, so it's kind of cool to read. And like, although every now and then I'm like, there's no way that they can be where she's saying they are and have what she's saying is happening.
When you say northern Michigan, you mean the UP?
No,
Or
like
the northern part of the Mitt?
Kalkaska, Traverse City area.
I was going to say, because people from Michigan, anybody from the UP would be like, nobody refers to anybody that says northern Michigan, that means the northern part of the mitten.
Mitten, yeah. The UP is the UP.
Well, I just finished book 5 of the Expanse series, which was,
Nice.
It doesn't matter. I'm on to Babylon's Ashes, and it's number 6 in the series, which is the end of the TV show, and I haven't watched all the TV show. So fucking good. If you're a sci-fi fan, it reads like butter. It's so much fun to read. It just flows. If you're into audiobooks, Jefferson May's audiobook narrator, fucking incredible too. And I'm kind of doing it side by side. I'm reading it along with, if I'm in the car, I listen to the audiobook. When I get somewhere where I can't listen to the audiobook, I read the book, that kind of thing. It's fucking great.
That's probably next on my list after I finish Return of the King.
Totally worth it. And even though the books look huge, it's like part of it is like the text, the font is a little bit bigger, so it's a little bit easier on the eyes. And again, they write in a style that they use a lot of complex ideas, but they explain it very plainly, so it flows in your brain really well. I don't have to stop and look stuff up or like think, wait a minute, who's talking to whom right now? Like most of the time it's very, very clear exactly what's going on, even just kind of glancing. So anyways. So yeah, that's what we're reading. And next we are going to tackle the gargantuan, and y'all can't see it, but I'm rubbing my temples with both hands. We are...
I'm so excited.
I am excited too. I just feel like I want to do it justice. In order to do it justice, that means we're biting off a good chunk of time. So, dear listener, have a little patience with us. Well, for those of you that are into Lord of the Rings, good for you. You're going to be very happy for the next at least like month or whatever it's going to be for us to do this. Right. Those of you that are not as much into the Lord of the Rings, trust us, we'll get off tangent a lot. And we'll probably make fun of it a little bit too. So don't worry. If you're not a fan of Lord of the Rings, you'll get some mocking. yeah. There's plenty to mock. With
you can mock everybody but Dominic Monaghan.
Frodo sauntering over to Samwise and dropping a brick directly from Clerks.
Even the fucking trees walk in that movie.
All right. Well, check us out on our social media, on TikTok, on Blue Sky, on Facebook, on ko-fi.com/screenshare. Buy us a coffee, rent us a movie, make us watch a movie of your choice. Leave us a review. Thank you for leaving us a review for everybody that does. We are getting awesome reviews across the board. Usually they don't have a lot of text involved, but they're just really good star ratings. So, hey, I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. Keep it up. Keep them coming. Make a new account and rate us again. Why don't you? But in any case, we'll see you next week for Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, Part 1 of question mark?
Question mark? Yeah.
Happy New Year. Hope you all got your resolutions or whatever. As you can tell, I don't think any of us put any stock in the resolutions that much. My resolution is to put 25 at the end of my dates whenever I write my date on anything.
My resolution is to make it through talking about the extended editions of the Lord of the Rings movies.
Without the podcast exploding or the world evolving into UFO or Donald Trump killing everybody or whatever. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen?
I'm just saying that if the aliens are there and they're not coming to take me away, then I don't want them.
Yeah,
that's kind of where I'm at.
If future historians are finding this thousands of years from now, you're wondering what society was like in the year of our Lord 2024, all three of us gave Alien a thumbs up. So, now you know. All right, so for Screen Share and Chill, I'm Kelly.
I'm Keith.
I'm Jamie.
See you later.
Bye.
Happy New Year. Hopefully you're not too hungover today. If you do, definitely don't ingest any aliens and eat some cornflakes right afterwards.
Stay away from the goo. Stay away from the goo.
Unless it's goo that you're looking forward to.
Well, that certainly calls for a dirty.
Yeah, and maybe you want to be like Ash and have just white dribbling out of your mouth after a nice long day. So, no shame.
I'm going to call the police. You go ahead, call them. Call anybody you want. They can't do anything to me. Not anymore. And nor can any of you. You go ahead, call them. Call anybody you want. They can't do anything to me. Not anymore.
We don't kink shame. We might kink ask why, but we don't kink shame.